This video will be about solving equations with variables on both sides. So I am going to be using some of the examples they use on the lesson because it's really hard to make up problems like this without ending up with a decimal or a fraction at the end. So it'll be easy to use what they've given. So looking at this, we have all sorts of stuff going on. So when we're looking at an equation, first we need to separate it into its two sides. A lot of people draw a line where the equal sign is to show, okay, over here that's the left side, over here this is the right side. Because to the left of the equal sign is the left side of the equation, to the right of the equal sign is the right side of the equation. So with those two sides, we need to simplify everything that we can on the left side and simplify everything we can on the right side. That means if there's any parentheses, we should get rid of them. If there's any like terms, we should combine them. So left side, I don't see any parentheses, so let's check the terms. I have negative 12x, that's the first term, and I have 4, that's the second term. So we're trying to decide, are these like terms? Well, stuff is only like terms if they contain the same letter. Since 12 has an x and 4 does not, they're not like terms. Right now, I can't do anything with the left side. I'm just going to bring it down. Okay, so now we check the right side. We have negative 10x, 40, and negative 14x. So again, 3 different terms, but we want to check and see if anything is a like term. So negative 10 has an x attached to it, and so does 14. That means they are like terms. Combining them together, negative 10 minus 14 would be negative 24x. We use the sign in front of the term, and we just combined the numbers out front. Negative 10 minus 14 was negative 24. We just leave the x how it is. The 40 didn't have anything to combine with, so we just bring it down, plus 40. So now we need all the letters on one side of the equation, all the numbers on the other side. We're going to only do this one step at a time. So right now we have negative 12x on the left and negative 24x on the right. We want them to both be on the left side or both be on the right side. So we actually have some flexibility. I could use either of those to do what I want. I'm just going to pick one. It doesn't actually really matter which one you pick. So I'm going to look at the negative 24x. And if I want to move the whole thing to the other side, I have to do the opposite, which is addition. Now, when we're working with equations, you may be thinking, well, when I see a number next to a letter, so this is side thought that has nothing to do with the current problem. When I have a number next to a letter, don't I usually divide? And you'd be right. But when you do that division, the x stays there. It doesn't actually move to the other side, which is a problem for what we want to do right now. We want to move the 24 and the letter x, which you have to do using addition or subtraction. You always just do opposite of whatever sign is there. Since we had negative, we plus 24. Do the same thing to the other side. We combine those now. Negative 12x plus 24x is positive 12x. Plus 4 equals, those cancel because they were opposites. So that equals 40. Now it's looking more like a regular equation. So this time I am restricted. Even though I'm looking at the 4 and the 40, this time I want to get stuff away from the letter x, so I want to get rid of the 4, which means I have to do the opposite of adding 4, which is minusing 4. So we get 12x equals 40 minus 4 is 36. Now we do my side thought, and we say, okay, now I want to move the number 12 without doing anything to the x, so I have to divide 12 to get x alone. Because when I divide, it only moves the 12 and not the x. 36 divided by 12 is 3. So let's look at a more complicated problem. What if I do have some parentheses and I am going to need to distribute? Let's say we have 5 times x plus 2 equals negative 2 times 3x minus 1 plus 4x. Again, we need to, and you don't have to draw in the line if it doesn't help you, but if it helps you separate, okay, this is the left side, this is the right side, then feel free to draw it in. So now this time, I cannot combine my like terms yet. I've got to take care of the parentheses. So when we have a number in front of some parentheses, we have to multiply that number by everything inside of the parentheses, and that process is called distribution. 5 multiplied by x is just 5x. 5 multiplied by 2 is 10. Okay, same thing on the other side. I'm going to have to distribute this negative 2. But I only distribute it by the stuff inside the parentheses. Yes, there's another number down here at the end, or term, I should say, plus 4x. But since that plus 4x is not inside the parentheses, it doesn't get multiplied by the negative 2. So negative 2 times positive 3x is negative 6x. Negative 2 times negative 1 is positive 2. And then we just bring down the 4x. So now, we have to do the step that we started with on the last problem. Now we look for anything to combine. Again, we're only comparing stuff on the left side together and stuff on the right side together right now. We have 5x and 10. Those are not like terms because one contains an x, one does not. On the right side, we have negative 6x and a positive 4x. Those are like terms because they both contain an x. So 5x plus 10 just comes down. Negative 6 plus 4 is negative 2x. Now we start doing our opposites. Again, it doesn't matter which one we start with. Let's say we look at the 5x this time. Let's take the 5x and let's move that using our opposites. Opposite of a positive, now they didn't write it in that this is a positive, but if the first thing written doesn't have a positive or a negative written in front, it's assumed to be positive. So we have to know, hey, this is really positive, which means I have to minus 5x. Bring the 10 down, we get 10 equals negative 2 minus 5 is negative 7x. Bring down the 2. Now we do the opposite of positive 2 and minus 2 from both sides. 10 minus 2 is 8. And then, to get rid of the number in front of the x, we divide. So we divide both sides by negative 7. Notice this time the x is on the right. That's okay. It doesn't matter if the x is on the right or the left. It's just more often we end up with the x on the left, so we feel like that's the right spot for it. It's supposed to go there, but it doesn't have to. So now if I were to plug 8 divided by negative 7 into a calculator, I'm going to get a decimal. I'd get negative 1.14. And it has more than that, but I'm going to stop there. It's negative 1.14, 2857, 143. Let's just say negative 1.14. Now, I can write my answer that way if that's what it's looking for. I could say negative 1.14 equals x. Sometimes they want you to leave it as a fraction, though. Sorry, I don't know why I do that sometimes. I dragged this where the screen was recording down. So we're going to actually leave this as 8 over negative 7. Now that negative sign, when it's on a fraction, we usually just put it in front, but you could leave it on the bottom. It doesn't really matter. We do want to check and see if we could simplify that fraction. So we do want to check and see, is there anything I could divide into 8 and also into 7? Has to be the same number. Well, the only number that divides into both of them is 1. If it's just a 1, we don't worry about it. If it was a 2 or a 3, or any other number besides 1, we'd actually do that division. So this would be our final answer. So that ends our video on solving equations with variables on both sides.